Today we're gonna learn how to create beautiful images of products like this watch using just the stuff lying around at your house. Right from taking the picture to making the picture in Lightroom and Photoshop, we're gonna cover it all. So without any further ado, let's get started. So here we have the watch, and this watch does deserve a nice backdrop. So first of all, we'll look for backdrops at our house. You don't have to buy some textures and some other stuff and you have to do that in Photoshop. You can look for some really nice textures at home. So first of all, we have this mouse pad. So this mouse pad is pretty dirty, but what you can do, if you just turn it around, have a look at the texture at the back. Really good texture. You might have to clean that up. Clean it up now, and also you can clean those spots out later in Photoshop. As you can see, if I keep the watch right in there, it looks pretty good. We can just go ahead and capture that. Really nice backdrop contrasting with this. And the other thing that we can do, I have this purse which I seldom use. Now this also has a pretty good leather texture at the back, and have a look at this. By the way, this doesn't have any money anyway. So you can use this as well. You can place the watch right in there, and you can always go ahead and crop this out. This would look super cool. And also I have a monitor. Let me just show you why did I keep that watch. I have this monitor, have a look, which I seldom use. I cleaned that up just for this tutorial. You can place the watch right in there like that, probably like this, and have a really nice reflection. It's slipping away, but you get the idea of how this is going to work. Looks really fantastic on that. You can use that as well. You can also use towels if you want. So have a look at this towel, and you can just place it in here, play with the drapes and just play with it. You get the idea how to do it. Now what I ended up deciding is this laptop. This is a slow laptop. I just use it for watching YouTube videos. Have a look at this laptop. I just pick it up. Have a look at the nice texture the laptop has. And what we can do, we can just place our thing right in here, cover the HP logo, and here we have the texture, and that's the image that we captured using the same texture, right? Now let's go ahead and find out how to take this picture. We have the light source as sun. What about the reflection? Let's take care of that. After you have placed the watch, here's the biggest challenge. As you can see from this side, the light is coming pretty fine, but from this side, it's pretty dark. We have to take care of it by using a reflector. But what if you don't have a reflector? Well, we have a lot of materials at our house that we can use. Here's a pretty simple book which you can use. This is from YouTube, but you don't have to have this book. Any book with white pages will do. All you have to do, here's what I did. I just placed this book right there, just got it inside. You can get someone to hold it, and you can also clip it up by using a stand, or you can do something like that, and you can have like this. Let me just zoom in and let me show you the effect. If I just zoom in and try to focus, there we go. Let me just increase the ISO a bit, probably there we go, somewhere around that, and have a look at this. Without it, with it, without it, with it. If you can get somebody to hold it, you can also hold it at the top by just placing it right there, just like this, and have a look at the effect. Wow, it looks fantastic, doesn't it? After this is ready, you can have the shine if you want. You can just remove it, have a look. Without it, with it. Makes a ton of difference. Now before taking the picture of the product, make sure you clean that up using probably a microfiber cloth, and after you clean that up, clean it up properly, and after you clean it up, make sure to blow out all the dust. If you have a blower using that, do it properly. The lesser the dust, the better chances you'll have of getting rid of that in Photoshop, and less of the time it will take. Okay, so now let's take the picture. Before you take the picture, make sure you have a high enough f number so that everything that you capture is in focus. Something as high as maybe f 6.3, 7.1, or I choose f8. That's cool, because what happens is sometimes the dial of the watch is in focus and sometimes the outer glass or the belt is not in focus, and this can happen, and this is bound to happen if you have a low f number. So make sure you have a narrow aperture or a high f number. You can also set that to aperture priority. It totally depends upon your taste, or manual, and set it for the correct exposure. Once you have done that, you can just simply go ahead and capture your photo. So here we are in Lightroom, and I've already imported the photo that we just took. Also went ahead and retouched it. So this is the final retouch image, and this is the before. So as you can see, before and this is the after. I'm going to show you how to achieve this very easily. So first of all, let's go ahead and reset that. And by the way, I've created snapshots for reset and final retouch. And if you don't know what snapshots are, check out the video right here. They're just like memories of settings. That's all there is. So let's reset that. And this is the before. First of all, let's play with the tones, okay? And before that, let's set the white balance, because white balance controls the exposure, okay? If you click on this eyedropper tool, white balance tool, so it's called, and let's select an area which should have been gray in real life. So the cover of the laptop is gray and it should be gray. So I'm going to just go ahead and click on this particular area. Okay, we have got the perfect white balance, and I think the white balance was pretty perfect. If we double click on the temperature, see, the white balance was 5600 Kelvin. So if we have set it now to 5700, it's very, very close. Now it's time for us to set the tone right. There's nothing that you have to do first. There's no such rule like that. You are the artist. You choose how to use the tool, okay? So first of all, I'm going to see which highlights looks fine for me. Don't look at whether it's clipping or not. Just look which highlight value looks good to your eye. Because clipping and all that stuff will be taken care of using whites and black later. Because even if you play with the highlights, lights, dark shadows in the tone curve, it will clip the image. It might clip the image. And we might have to come back to white and blacks to set the clipping right. Set the white point and the black point right to make sure that the image is not clipping. Now what is clipping? Clipping happens when an area gets too bright or too dark to have any details. In other words, it's so bright that it cannot store any details. It's complete blob of white there. Okay, so don't worry about clipping right now. Set the highlights to the point which you like. This is, I don't like that. I like this value, for example. I like this value. Next, set the shadows to the point which looks good to the eye. Don't worry about clipping right now. We would increase the shadows a bit to this point. And whites and the black, let's not set it right now. Let's play with the tone curve. And if you want to, you can increase the clarity, but I don't think we want it. Let's play with it. No, it's fine without the clarity. Now let's play with the highlights, lights, dark shadows there. If I increase the highlight, it looks very good. It's blowing out the colors right here, but don't worry about that right now. If it looks good to you, increase it. Then lights, probably a little bit of lights also looks good. Maybe we'll increase the darks a bit or decrease it. Let's increase it a bit and decrease the shadows. Yep, that looks good. Now let's take care of clipping. Let's open that up and let's scroll it up. To take care of clipping, hold the shift key and double click on the whites. This takes whites to -100, and as you can see, it took care of the clipping, took care of the extra bright areas. Now hold the shift key, double click on the blacks to set the black point. And there you have it, it's done. Now, as you can see, the belts are a little blown out. If we just zoom in to 1:4, as you can see, the colors are a little blown out right there. And we are losing textures. We'll take care of that. Do not worry about it using adjustment brush. Now, you can also go ahead and profile correct it. You can check in enable profile corrections. As you can see, there's a little bit of bend there. Okay, so this is distortion. Just see the bend. I'm not sure whether you can see it in this screen. You can check this on. See, the line gets straight. But here's the problem with that. You can always go ahead and decrease the distortion. It's kind of too much. Okay, here's the problem with this. If you check enable profile corrections, every other process in Lightroom becomes very, very slow. It's a very heavy feature to add in, very heavy effect. Okay, so let's check this off and save it for the last. Please apply it last, because if I check it, let's play with the brush. I'll show you how hard it is to work with it. It's checked on. Even the brush becomes like very, very slow. Right now, you cannot see it, but as you can see, it's very slow. It's lagging behind. So make sure, let's go back. Make sure you save that effect for the last. Let's check that off. We don't want that right now. And if both of them are checked, Lightroom gets really, really slow. So right now, let's take care of the belts. Let's take the brush and just paint on the belts. I'm going to do it very, very quickly. And for the belts, let's decrease the highlights for this area to revert back in. 1:4 zoom, and let's move. And if you're zoomed in and if you want to move, hold the space bar, your cursor changes to a hand,
and then move. Especially this happens when you have the brush selected. Okay, just paint on this area. As you can see, it's too much. We'll take care of that later. But this looks good. I'm painting very vaguely. Similarly, do it in this one. And if you want to see which areas are you painting, you can always go ahead and press the letter O to see the mask in red. Press O again to remove it. Now, double click on the highlights to set it back to 0 and gradually decrease it. As you can see, we are getting this texture back, and just stop at 61 because we have got most of the texture back. It might differ for your image. And there you have it. As you can see, this area is pretty dark. We can create a new brush by clicking on new and then just paint on this area and set the highlights back to 0 and increase the shadows. There you go. We have details back in. Now we have of course painted some extra areas. You can always go ahead and press O to see which extra areas have we painted accurately and remove it by holding the Alt or Option. This changes the brush to minus and just painting away the extra areas just like this. Okay. And press O again to remove it. Now, as you can see, very easy to do, right? So that's the way you work on it with the brush. Now, I've already worked on it. I'll show you what I have done. I've also just darkened this area because I thought that's too bright. This is clipping. If I go ahead and press J, see this area is totally clipping. So I went ahead, took a new brush. And if you want every slider to be at 0, all you have to do, just double click on the effect. Every slider is in 0. Take the brush, just paint on this area and decrease the highlights. Okay. And that's the way I did it. Let's zoom out and let's get to the final retouch because that's exactly what I did. I took a little more time, played with the sliders, add some more brushes, and that's all there is. Let's go to the final retouch. Okay, there we go. Now, as you can see in this, as you can see, I also just increased the color a little bit here, vibrance. Okay, vibrance 0 is this. If I just go ahead and increase the vibrance to maybe 36-ish, which was it before, it looks good. You can just increase the vibrance even more. I guess maybe go 60-ish. Okay, that looks good. Now let's go 1:4. Now, if you have a look at it, it has some reflection, some brown reflection, some reflection of the windows and stuff. And that's when you require a studio. But if you're not doing it in a very professional level, it doesn't matter. These reflections, only a professional will just pick it out. But the colors don't look nice. For that, take the brush again, just decrease the saturation and just paint on the metal areas. And that way we get rid of that color. It looks much more better. You can take some more time and paint on every ring and every metal area to get rid of any color shade. If that's something you're looking for, again, if that's something you're looking for, if you want the colors to be in, if you want the colors to be in all of the reflections and the shining areas, you can just leave it at that. But for this, I just wanted to remove the colors. Okay, there we go. We removed the colors here and there, and it looks so much more better. Let's just move it there. And of course, Lightroom is a little slow, and this is a raw photo. Make sure you don't paint on this blue area. I'll just hold the Alt option and just subtract this. Okay, there we go. Let's zoom out by holding the spacebar. Cursor changes to a hand. Click on it and it zooms out. Have a look at the before and after. The brush effect. So this is before the brush. This is after the brush. See, the color is gone. I've just darkened stuff. Now, before we head over to Photoshop, you can also do dodging and burning in Lightroom. Yes, you can do that in Lightroom, but it's a little bit slow. So that we prefer to do it in Photoshop, but you can do that here as well. I'm going to show you some trick which is really, really awesome. If we go ahead and zoom in 1:4, and if you want to add an extra shine in the watch dial, here's what you do. Create a new brush. Okay, new brush. Increase the exposure a little bit. Let's just double click on the effect to set everything to 0, and let's increase the exposure to some amount so that you can see where exactly we are painting. And let's decrease the brush size by using the mouse scroll. If you're not using a mouse, you can use the Wacom tablet to do the same, or you can decrease the size from here too. So let's decrease the size. Let's just scroll it up to this little small. Let's dab once in the middle of the watch. Okay, just dab once. And then it's pretty cool. Increase the size of the brush. Okay, increase the size of the brush a little bit much. See the shine? See this area? Increase the brush size to that area. Hold the shift key and click on the edge once. Have a look. We have added a glow just in the shape of the cone, and you can do that in other side as well. Decrease the size of the brush, dab once, increase the size of the brush using the scroll or the slider. I'll increase it this much and hold the shift key. Just click on in here. You've added a cone. Now delete the extra areas. We didn't want these areas to be affected. By holding the minus, alt actually, and the brush changes to minus, and delete these extra areas very easily. We didn't want exposure. Let's double click on the exposure. This was just for indication. Now you can go ahead and increase the highlights if you like, and then decrease the blacks if you want a bit, and maybe increase the clarity just a tad bit, maybe a little exposure. Okay, just like 0.3 probably. And let's have a look what of a difference it makes. Let's zoom out. Have a look at the shine. This looks pretty darn good, doesn't it? Now, once you're ready with the image, let's hide all of the brush anchor points, and the shortcut to that is H. If you press H for hat, I just cannot pronounce H for hat, just press that and it looks very cool. But if you zoom in, have a look, it has a lot of dust in it, and that's what we're gonna do in Photoshop. Remove the dust, remove the wrinkles, and probably dodge and burn. Okay, right click on it and go to Edit in Adobe Photoshop CC 2018 or whatever version you're using. Okay, now this will load up in Photoshop probably. So finally, here we are in Photoshop, and here we have our image to play with. Now if we zoom in, have a look, a lot of dust is there. No matter how much you clean, you will see dust, and that's one of the biggest problems with product photography. So very easy to remove. Create a new layer and name it dust. And there used to be, and there still is, a dust and scratches filter in Photoshop, but I think the spot healing brush tool works much better for me. Okay, let's choose the spot healing brush tool and simply make sure you have sample all layers checked and zoom in. I'm going to show you some tricks which is very cool. Now, as you can see, for these spots are brighter than the surrounding areas. So for that, you can choose the blend mode, darken. Now, here's the best part about darken blend mode. If you choose the darken blend mode, and then if you paint on these, it will never accidentally paint on the dark areas. It will just paint on the bright areas. Have a look how clean that is. If we had chosen normal, it would have also removed the areas, every area that we painted on. Okay, if you choose darken, if you paint a bigger area, it will only affect the area which is brighter than the surrounding pixels so that it can darken it. Okay, you might have to change the blend mode from darken to lighten, or sometimes to normal, depending upon the area that you're painting in. But for this area, we're going to choose darken, since the spots and the dust are brighter. Okay, just dab, just keep on dabbing on these areas and they will be taken care of. Now, since this is a very, very huge image, it's taking time. Okay, so take your time, remove all the dust. I'm going to put a fast forward version right here. But before we move on to the fast forward version, I got to show you something. If I just zoom in, and if you have the darken blend mode selected, and if you try to just paint on this area, just dab once, it just doesn't go away. It won't go away. It's still there. Why is it still there? Because this is darker than the surrounding areas. So in that case, you might have to choose lighten or normal. When lighten doesn't work, choose normal. Normal is something which will work in most cases, which will work in all cases, by the way. But the results of darken and lighten are much better if you know exactly where you are painting. So normal will work on this one. Obviously, just dab, paint, and there you go. Why am I suggesting to use spot healing brush tool? Well, healing brush tool will yield probably a much better result, but you don't want to grow old doing this, do you? And spot healing brush tool is made for removing spots. Okay, it works really cool. Now, here is the fast forward version. we have the image without dust, and here is the one with dust. God, it takes a lot of time. So probably I'm recording this tutorial before the fast forward version, so the dust is still not gone. And meanwhile, while that video was playing around, I actually went ahead and decreased the size of the image so that I can show you really fast and Photoshop doesn't lag, because it's constantly also recording the screen. So it's a little slow right now. So all you have to do is just dab on these areas and just work your way through. It's very simple to work with it. Now have a look. We just made 4 dabs. Before, after makes so much of a difference. So you might have to sit all day long just dabbing. Okay, now let's talk about removing these things. Let's zoom out so that we can see it, removing the wrinkles and stuff. Now here's a method to do it. We can also use frequency separation to do it. That's really cool. So create a new layer. First of all, remove the wrinkles, and then we'll even out the tone. To remove the wrinkles, you gotta select the healing brush tool. Okay, make sure all layers is checked, because you want to take both layers, dust and background, into consideration, right? So make the brush a little bigger by holding the alter option, right mouse button, dragging it to the right to make it bigger, dragging it to the left to make it smaller, dragging it up to make it soft, dragging it down to make it hard. So let's make it pretty soft, pretty small. Let's take a sample from this and just paint on this particular area. And that's gone. That's how you remove wrinkles, one by one. Now it's gonna take some time, but you get the idea how to do it. Just take a sample of an area of which the texture is similar to the area in which you're painting on. For example, in this area, the texture would be something like this. So I'll take a sample from here and just paint on that area, and that would be fine. Similarly for this, let's take a sample from this. Don't take sample from this area, it will look worse. Take sample from nearby areas of which the texture match. Okay, just like this. And you can go ahead and remove all the wrinkles in there in the leather. Now, as you can see on the left band, it's very good. It's very evened out, looks very nice. But on in here, it looks very old, something like that. Let's take care of that using frequency separation. You can go ahead and press Ctrl-Alt-Shift-E. Command Option Shift E. This creates a merged layer of everything that you see in the canvas right now. So Command Option Shift E. Alt Control Shift E in Windows. Now make a copy of that. Press Ctrl or Command J. And you can name this low frequency. Frequency, what happened to my spellings? Frequency, and you can name this one high frequency. Now high frequency layer has to have the textures, the fine texture. Low frequency has the color and the tone. If you want to know the physics of frequency separation, I have a separate video dedicated to that. Check out the video right here on how this all works. Now, let's turn off the high frequency layer, choose the low frequency layer, go to filter, blur, and then Gaussian blur. Decrease the value of the radius all the way to 0.1. Now, let's sample an area. Just click on in here so that we can see it zoomed in right there. And increase the radius, keep on it, increasing it gradually, and just when you see all of the texture blurred out, stop. Just at that point, when all of it blurs out, stop. So at this point, probably 4.5 is good. Maybe let's stay at 4.8. That's probably good. Click OK. Then just turn on the high frequency, select the high frequency, and subtract the color and the tone from that. That way, we'll just have the high frequency texture in that. Again, if you want to know detailed explanation and theories of how that works, check out the video. Then go to Image, Apply Image, and then choose Layer, Low Frequency, because we want to subtract the low frequency from it, RGB, and let's choose Subtract to 128, 100%, that's fine, hit OK. And just change the blend mode from normal to linear light. Now select low frequency, choose the mixer brush. If you want to know how the mixer brush works, again, check out that particular video. In that video, I talk about everything in every possible detail, in every possible way, so that you understand all the theories and the basic concepts. That's a long video, watch that. Think of mixer brush like this, I've already said it. Think of your image just like an oil painting which is still wet, and you have the brush, and if you smudge your brush on it, the image will smudge. It's just like that. So select the low frequency layer, and using the mixer brush tool, select that, and you can keep the wet at 4%. Wetness is how wet the brush is. The more the wetness, the more smudging will happen. You don't have to worry about load and mix. And flow is, you already know what it is. If the flow is 10%, the intensity of the brush is 10%. That means you might have to paint 10 times to get 100% intensity. Very simple. Select the low frequency and just try to even that out. If you want to see what you are exactly doing, just turn off the high frequency and just try to even the tones out right in there, just like that. And once you've done it, okay, let's just paint a couple more times. And once you've done it, just turn the high frequency on and let's have a look at this. Have a look at the before and after. If we make a group of both of these high frequencies and low frequency, holding the controller command, clicking on the other one, make sure both of them are selected, and then Control or Command J, have a look at the before. Before, wrinkles on, and after, wrinkles gone. Isn't that wonderful? And after that, if you wish, after you remove the dust, after you have taken care of the wrinkles and stuff, you can also go ahead and do dodging and burning if you want. So I'm gonna click on the adjustment layer icon and choose curves and probably increase it a bit, just like this, and select the mask, press Ctrl or Command I. You know the concept of mask, right? Black conceals, white reveals. So right now the mask is completely black. So you cannot see the effect of the layer anywhere. So you have to take the brush, normal brush, and if you paint with white, you'll see the effect in the areas that you paint white in the mask. Let's decrease the flow to somewhere around probably 1 or maybe 5-ish, and we don't need smoothing. Let's decrease it to 0. It's a new feature in Adobe Photoshop 2018. If you want to know more about it, check out the video by Adobe right there. Okay. So you can just brighten up some areas like that. And it gives a really nice metallic feel. If you're looking for it, you can just some areas, a little bit of brightness, and just few strokes. Have a look at the before and after. So this is the before and this is the after. Just few strokes added more dimension to the image. So before, after. You can go ahead, do this for hours. People do this for hours, 3-4 hours, and work on it. Then you can add one more curves adjustment layer and take it down. This is for burning. This was dodging. Dodging is brightening. Burning is darkening. And by the way, just a quick little recap. Dodging and burning is brightening and darkening particular areas of the image to add dimension to the photo. Okay. If you want to know more about it, video is already there. Okay. Press Ctrl or Command I, make sure the mask is selected, and to add some dimension, you can just darken particular areas with white. You can just select white as the foreground color and darken this area. And if you think this is affecting the colors of the photo, you can change the blend mode of this one to luminosity. That way it won't affect the colors. Some more dimensions like that. So have a look. Before, after. If you think it's too much, you can always go ahead and just delete this area. If you painted extra with white, just like this, and you want to delete that, press X to toggle between the foreground and the background color. If you paint in black, that area hides. Again, black conceals, white reveals. So paint that area with black, and there you have it. Before, after. Don't forget to decrease the opacity. Okay. You can also go ahead and cut out the watch and change the background. That's something you can do, but we chose the backdrop very carefully. We did some hard work on it, and this looks nice. Let's not do it. And also, what are the things which you can do? If you have a black background, let's change the canvas background to black. This looks nice. This looks pretty good, right? But if you change the background to white, if your website or anything where you will be uploading this photo, if it's white, have a look. The background is looking a little grayish. So also what you can do to put more attention to the product, you can select the background and darken it. You can also do it using curves. So click on the adjustment layer icon, choose curves, take it down, and in the mask, take the brush, make sure black is selected, just paint out the product, increase the flow to around 100%. You don't want the effect on the product, just paint out the product. And there you have it, the bright product and the dark background. You can then go ahead and control the opacity, and you get the idea of what you are getting. So before, after. You can do that as well. If you want to brighten it, of course, if it's a white background, you want it to brighten it like this. And you can do that as well. Maybe increase the contrast a bit like that. And there you go. Before, after. So let's zoom in and have a look. It looks good, doesn't it? So let's delete it. We don't want it, but I think it looks brighter better in a white background. And if we choose black, it looks darker better. It's totally upon you. It's totally on your taste. You are the artist. And this is the final image. So that's how to create beautiful images of products, and you don't have to have any excuses for the things that you don't have. As you saw, we created things using the things lying around at our house. Very simple to do. Once you take the picture and import it into Photoshop, make adjustments in Lightroom, make local adjustments, make sure the attention is going towards the product, not in the background. And that's why the background has to be flat. It doesn't have to grab attention. Okay. Once you have worked on Lightroom, import it into Photoshop, remove the dust, remove the wrinkles using frequency separation, and after that it's pretty simple. You can dodge and burn, you can apply all kinds of effects and stuff, you can just rotate, just set the image right, and you can place it the way you want, you can add text, and plethora of things that you can do with it. So that's pretty much it. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, make sure to give us a like, and also don't forget to subscribe, and not just subscribe. Ring the bell so that you, my friend, don't miss a thing. I'll see you guys in my next one. Till then, stay tuned and make sure that you keep creating.